Hello and thank you for joining me. My name is Mike Roberts and welcome to this snippet from the Song of Solomon. And this is our 20th snippet. We're making our way verse by verse through the book of the Song of Solomon. And in this snippet, we are getting close to the end of chapter 2. And we've been looking at a conversation that's taken place between Solomon, who represents Jesus in this story, and the Shulamite maid, who is his bride, who represents you and me. And we've been talking about what she has said to him, and now what he is saying to her. And in the previous snippets, we looked at verses 9 through 13, and we want to pick up right where we left off last time. And now we're in the middle of Solomon talking, which again is symbolic of the heart of Jesus being revealed to you and me. We've talked so far about how, in what we've read up to this point, she has done most of the talking. And that's kind of symbolic of the fact that in our relationship with him, there's often times when we do most of the talking. But I believe as a relationship matures and as a relationship deepens, it becomes less of a one-way conversation and becomes more of a two-way conversation. And so now we're getting to hear from him, which we hear from him more and more as we walk with him, as we spend time with him, and again as our relationship with him deepens and grows. We'll begin to hear his voice more often. But what we're going to see here, thankfully, is he never gets tired of hearing from us. So we've been seeing that she's been talking about what he has shared with her. We've seen it's a brand new time. He's calling her away. He's drawing her to come with him. It's the spring of the year. Flowers are in bloom. Animals are busy. They hear the voices of birds singing around them. And now we see in verse 14, he says to her, he has just said to her in verse 13, "Arise, my darling, my beautiful one, and come along." And then he says, "O my dove, in the clefts of the rock, in the secret place of the steep pathway, let me see your form, let me hear your voice." So again, he wants her to keep talking to him. He wants to hear her voice. So he says, "Let me see your form, let me hear your voice, for your voice is sweet and your form is lovely." So he's taking her to a secret place. He's taking her to a place that nobody else knows about. And as we've seen in some previous snippets, he's also taken her to a place where it's not easy to get to. Now, she talked about him being like a young stag or a deer, how he can run up along the hills and jump on the mountains. And we talked about how he enlarges our steps under us, which it says in Psalm 18, and he enables us to stand in places that we could not stand ordinarily. And it says that he makes our feet like the feet of a deer, that we can stand in the high places. Well, now he has taken her to such a place. So we see that she's standing in a place that is only possible because of her relationship with him. She's in the clefts of the rock. She's in the secret place of the steep pathway. And she could never have gotten there by herself. She's only there because of the fact that he has enabled her to walk in those places and to remain and stand in those places. So here she is, and he says to her, "Let me see your form. Let me hear your voice, for your voice is sweet and your form is lovely." And we're going to take a couple of snippets to dig into what he's saying here. But in the remainder of this one, let's think about the fact that he says to her, "Your voice is sweet." Again, he really wants to hear from her. Now, I'm not sure about you, but there's times that I'll be feeling the desire in my heart to pray, and as soon as I begin to pray, I begin to talk to Jesus, a little voice says, "He doesn't want to hear from you. You're praying the wrong way. You're praying things you shouldn't pray, or you're saying stupid things, or whatever else." And those voices, which I know are ridiculous, they're lies from the enemy, but sometimes I want to believe those things. And they sometimes have deterred me and prevented me, stopped me. I've allowed those things to stop me from talking to Jesus. But we can see right here, he says, "I want to hear your voice because your voice is sweet." So I'm encouraged by this. I hope you'll be encouraged as well. Jesus always wants to hear from us. He always wants to hear from us. And we have to, as we walk with him, as our relationship with him grows and matures, we've got to learn how to tune out and ignore that voice from the enemy that says he doesn't want to hear from you. Maybe he wants to hear from somebody else, but he doesn't want to hear from you. Or here you are praying for the same old thing again. Here you are being selfish and thinking about yourself. Even if that's true, we can't overcome that without his help that we get by talking to him. So as this snippet comes to a close, let's be encouraged and let's determine We're not going to let that voice of the enemy stop us from talking to the one that our soul and our heart loves. Jesus wants to hear from you and me. He desires to. There's things that we can only receive, help we can only receive from Him, and we get that by our relationship with Him. There's never a time that He does not want to hear from you and me.